This episode of Finding Demo Surf Fishing is being brought to you by the Kids Can Fish Foundation. Go over to kidscanfish.net and take a look at the awesome things that they're doing with these kids out of the St. Simons Island, Georgia area, and hopefully beyond with the clinics, camps, all these things that they're doing for the kids. All the money and donations that you do, because they are a 501c3 charitable organization, go back into the organization to help these kids get out and go fish. If they're going out to do a surf fishing clinic, they're leaving with a rod reel combo. They're leaving with good stuff. At cast nets, they're leaving with a new cast net. That way they know what they're doing, how they use the gear, and they're all set with a lot of fun pieces all put together. Every year they host the annual Running of the Bulls tournament in October, and it's a ton of fun. And the money that goes to that, same thing, right back into the organization to help these kids all get out, go fish, and learn. We have the addiction. It's time to pass it on to the next generation. And like their awesome unofficial logo is, more tackle boxes, less X boxes. I love that. Kidscanfish.net. Welcome back, everybody, to a new episode. And this week we are getting on the old digital airplane and we're going international. Yeah, we're going down to Mexico. We're going to Cabo. And I've been there a couple times on Disney cruises, which is a lovely time. I mean, it's a lot of fun. I've done some really cool other excursions. And after all the things that I've learned while surf fishing and following people through social media and YouTube and all that, I missed the boat on some probably the best fishing I possibly could have. Well, let's double it up one more. Recently scrolling through and I came across a channel called the Cabo Surfcaster. And I'm like, what's this? And Wes has been doing this for a long time. It's really cool to see. And all of a sudden I'm seeing he's catching rooster fish from the surf. And I'm like, you got to be kidding me. I thought this was something you could only get in a kayak. What the hell? And then it just kept getting better and another catch and a different species. And this, I'm like, fury, just rage from missing out on all this opportunity. Well, thankfully, Wes is coming on the show. So this week, that's right, we're talking with the Cabo Surfcaster, Wes himself. So without further ado, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, how you doing? This is it's good to be on here. I ended up I just got done fishing on the beach and I got home and got your message, so that's awesome to be able to get on here with you.
Dude, I'm so pumped, and congratulations on all the cool things that you're doing down there, and just so much success and all those years of knowledge and putting things together and making this happen. Seriously, congratulations on being that friggin' successful.
Thanks. It's been a fun journey and it's definitely changing and in quite a few areas. Just the fishery down here and also the fact that everything on social media just seems to be shifting and how you have to create content and stuff, which is it's fun and difficult to keep up with at the same time, but it's been good. Yeah, we had a good time doing it.
Dude, it's true. Before we even get into the questions,
Mm-hmm.
the whole social media game has really just, you got to hit this wicket, this wicket, this wicket. Okay, now you're okay. And then if you
Yep.
miss one of those, right back to the bottom of the algorithm. It's like, what did I do wrong?
Yeah, no, I feel like we just got a handle on it and things are starting to change again. But yeah, right now it's all about videos, short reels, and pretty much what I've found to keep up with it is picture people's brains being the dumbest, laziest things you can possibly imagine, and then create something that will keep the interest of the laziest, dumbest brain person ever. And that's what's selling on social media, which kind of sucks for us. I like doing longer form videos and more storytelling and more adventure type stuff, but it doesn't get eaten up at all on social media. So you got to make 15 to 30-second reels and make stuff exciting, interesting, flash in the pan, and that's what gets seen. So yeah, I still like to make my own stuff on the side, longer stuff that people actually want to sit down and watch for a little bit, and I'll keep doing it.
Yeah, I've been told by a couple people that, hey, you're doing long form content. It's not going to be seen. I'm like, I don't care. I'm doing long form content. This is what I
Right
do.
on.
I'm telling people's
Good for
story.
you. Good for you.
I mean, it's
Yeah.
and that's one thing I love about podcasting. In reality, it's doing well. I mean, I wish I could say that, oh, I'm not doing this. It's doing quite well, and the downloads are wonderful. And hey, thank you to all of you that do that. I appreciate you and we love you. But yeah, man, I agree. The old poop doom scrolling quickly, the quick thumb swipe, it's definitely the catch on, man. And it's a
Yeah.
hard friggin' thing to harness to pack in that much knowledge in 30 seconds to 1 minute. It's just borderline impossible.
Yeah. Yeah, that's why it's pretty much useless for. I mean, that's what you call it, doom scrolling, because it adds nothing to your day except oh, whoa, that's cool, you know.
Yeah.
So yeah, you don't learn anything. It's just a cool thing. I filmed a lot of videos this morning. I've got probably content for 10 videos this morning that I filmed,
Wow.
and it's like, yeah, it's amazing stuff, great, but it only lasts for 10-15 seconds.
It's really painful. It hurts to hear it, and I'm like, I
Yeah.
get it, and I totally do. Oh, man. All right, so let's get into the podcast questions. Let's start at the very beginning. Tell us your story and what got you into fishing.
Whew. Story. Start at the beginning. My parents moved down here to Cabo before I was born, so I ended up growing up down here my whole life. And it was a completely different world when I was a kid down here. There was about 10,000 people that lived here in Cabo at the time, and now we're somewhere right around 400,000. Um, so that much growth, and my life has just changed how things are 100%. From the fishing to town traffic, hotels, all the craziness. Um, but then I ended up. I always really liked fishing. I was fishing with my dad when I was really young, probably 4 or 5 years old, and then kind of went from there. We used to fish, just cut bait and light tackle around the rocks and catch all kinds of stuff for fun and growing up. And then also along in that same time frame, I ended up getting into spearfishing as well. So I did a lot of diving, a lot of free diving, spearfishing, and that was a good way to grow up, And then when I got to be about 13, 14, I had a buddy of mine who came over to the house one day. I remember it well because it was in June and it was Father's Day. So I think it was like around the 16th or something like that. And he came over to the house and goes, "Hey, take me down to your beach to go fishing. Everything's lining up. The tide's right. The water temperature's right. There's a temperature break off your point down here." And he's like, "It should be really good right now." And I've walked outside, looked out, and it's probably blowing 20 miles an hour, and the waves are huge down on the beach. And I'm looking at it, and everything looks kind of gray. The water looks green. I'm like, "What are you talking about? It looks terrible." I'd never fish on a day like that. Like it just, it didn't look like a fishable day at all. And he goes, "No, the tide this evening is going to be really good. We need to go down there. Just take me down there." And I'm like, all right, let's go. So I went down. I had my setup was about I think it was a 9-foot rod, just a little, and I was using it still for bait. So I had 12-pound mono on there and a little spinning reel. And we get down there, and wind's blowing, waves are big, and there's a big school of mullet right in front of us on the beach, and they're just flipping on the surface out there. And he goes, "Here, tie this lure on," and he gave me it was a Ranger, one of the Roberts Rangers, the top water, and he goes, "Here, tie this on and cast it through the school, reel as fast as you can, and just keep doing it." So about the second cast through, I see the whole school just part in half, and there's probably 100 bait fish flying through the air, and a big rooster fin comes right down the middle, and my lure was coming right down the middle of that school, and everything just parted, and my lure was left in the middle, and the thing just came right down the middle and smashed my lure right in front of me. It was like, "Whoa, no way," and he runs over laughing, and he goes, "Enjoy it while you can. It's not going to last long." And he goes, "You're going to lose that fish right away. It's going to spool you." And and I fought this thing. It got down to almost the knot on the reel, and then it ran down the beach. And so I chased this thing down the beach, and probably about a mile down the beach, I ended up tiring this thing out and landing it. And it was about a 50-pound rooster fish, and on 12-pound mono with a little surf rod. We got it up, and I took pictures with it, and he goes, "All right, let's get it back to the water." And what? This is the biggest fish I ever caught. I'm not letting this thing go. What are you talking about? He goes, "No, no, no. We don't keep rooster fish. We throw those back." I'm like, "Well, how am I supposed to? We got a picture of it. Throw it back in the water." All right. I was like so disappointed. At that age, I was like, you keep everything you catch. And so we got it back in the water and went home. And turned out, I took the picture into the tackle shop, and Minerva, who owns the tackle shop down here, she goes, "Well, you didn't catch it on that rod, did you?" And I go, "Yeah, no, that's my rod." He's like, "Well, no one's ever caught one and registered anything on 12-pound test. That would have been a world record." And I was like, "Oh, shoot. Well, give me a second. I'm going to go do it again. I know right where they are. I'm going to go do it." And so I went back out the next day, threw the lure. Same thing. It came up, ate the lure, took off, and in about 30 seconds, it goes, bing,
Ding.
there goes all the line. And I go, oh, so that's what they do. From then on, I was hooked on catching bigger fish off the beach on lures, and then I got a bigger setup, got a bigger reel, instead of 12-pound mono, switched up to 20-pound mono. Now we're talking heavy stuff, And then I got, over the course of that year, got spooled and broken off multiple times after that. Then I was hooked, and it went bigger and bigger and better equipment from there. And that's kind of the transition from there. And then I started guiding when I was about 17. And I've been guiding ever since. This will be 18 or 19 years now. I'll be 35 next month. So it's been a good way to make a living. Good way to get up in the morning and start your day is on the beach. And if you get to take people and have them experience that, and have them get on their first rooster or their big jack crevalle, or we got so many cool fish that it's really fun to, you gotta like people to be in this business, and you gotta enjoy getting people on fish. And some of that's trained, and some of it's by nature. Some of it I had to give up, fighting my own fish, and settle with hooking them, which is super fun. I mean, that now it's gotten to the point where I really enjoy it. So, and then that kind of catches us up till now. I mean, I've been doing that ever since. So,
Wow. I mean, that's one way to get an addiction. And I can only imagine seeing that rooster fin saying, "Okay, that bait is mine." Dude, that must have been intense.
it was wild. I still remember almost everything from that day. I mean, that was one of those ones seared in your mind.
Way to go. I mean, you just basically are like, "Yep, this is it." I mean, yeah, that doesn't get any better than that. Holy crap, dude. Like I'm giddy for you, so I can only imagine that.
You put bait fishing away pretty quick after that.
Yeah, yeah, I don't see there any reason for anything after that one. Okay, so you do have a lot of different type of fishing down there in Cabo. So it sounds like you primarily do the surf, but what type of fishing do you like to do?
I mean, when I get days off, it's fun to go out on the boat. I got buddies who got boats down here, and it's fun to get out. I really like trying to chase yellowfin with lures, casting them with spinning gear from the boat, and get out in the schools of porpoise, or find them feeding on the surface out there and casting stuff at them and seeing them hit on the top. That's super fun. And it's happening right now. Unfortunately, tomorrow we're getting hit with this big storm, and my buddies were out yesterday and today, and I couldn't get out with them today, and they were booked on charters yesterday, and they slayed them. I mean, they lost multiple 100-pounders on poppers on and it was just, I was dying.
Of course. Of course.
And now we got the storm tomorrow coming in, and it'll be kind of garbage for another week or so. So.
You guys have some beautiful water in Cabo. I mean, granted, like I said, I've only seen it from the tourism side, and you see it daily, but boating, fishing, surfing, swimming, scuba, all of it, perfect. and excuse me, uh, I can only imagine the paradise pieces you have, and you have such a great fishery for so many months. I mean, borderline year round. And I know we're going to talk about that a little bit further in here, but
Mhm.
it's yeah, I feel your pain and not going to be able to go out with friends and catch tuna. Oh man,
Yeah.
what is your favorite thing about fishing?
Hmm. That's an interesting way to word that because it's not what is your favorite type of fishing or what is it's favorite thing about fishing. I think that's changed over the years. I think, especially being a guide and being the person who gets people on fish and tries to make that experience happen for people. That part of it has translated to me into um, trying to get very specific moments on video and like in a really cool way. So I really like that about fish. It's almost for me it's almost as good as the hooking up on the fish itself and is being even behind the camera or capturing that moment. You can go back and watch it. If it's shot the right way, you can go back and watch it 100 times, and it's good when you get home too. And then being able to be creative with that and turn it into something that you can show people, and it's all the little things that we as fishermen really enjoy about the sport is like when bait's blowing up and you see it start to happen and your mind just keys in on it right away. And I've stared at the waves and the water my whole life and probably spent more hours on the beach than anywhere else. And it gets to the point where like I know exactly when and how those things are going to happen sometimes, and if you get a camera on that and can be right there and turn it into slow motion and then show somebody how it happens. I don't know. That's just I like showing people all the things that get me excited about it. Because
Oh
I've caught
yeah,
all I've caught all the fish and I've caught them about as big as I'm ever going to get them. And so yeah, I know some of our questions down the road are going to be what's next and stuff, but yeah, that'll lead into what I'm excited about. But this is what gets me excited on a daily basis is kind of the being able to capture it and repeat it, replay it, and get those moments and kind of string them together into something really cool. Tell a story.
oh. And your videos do that. So if you guys haven't seen his stuff, when you go back and take a look, you'll see exactly what he's talking about. Your videos are very, very good about that.
Thanks. Yeah.
Uh, what has been your favorite or craziest catch ever?
Huh. Um, I'd say I got a couple. So one, I guess I have to lead with the world record snook that I got about 2 years ago. That
Wow.
was like kind of the top and like you have a claim to something. Once you get an all tackle record, that's a big one. It broke a 20-year-old standing record, and so and it was actually the experience itself was one of the least rewarding
Oh, no.
things ever. I didn't even know what I had hooked because it was in the evening and it was dark, and I thought I had hooked a roosterfish and that we were going to release it anyways, and it was too dark to get a picture of it. And I hooked it on really heavy line, and we had already hooked a couple of them and gotten good pictures, and I was like, all right, I'm going to horse it in. We'll get this thing off of here and get out of here. We got to get back. It's like 8:30 in the evening and sun's down. And so I had 100-pound braid, and I just locked it down, walked backwards on the beach, held my spool, and dragged this thing up on the beach as hard as he was pulling. I was like, you're not going to break 100-pound in a straight pull. So I just walked backwards on the beach till he was up on the sand, and the whole thing probably took, I don't know, 4 or 5 minutes. And turns out it was a 51.5-pound snook. And he came up on the beach and beat the world record by, what is that, 40%, by 4 pounds. So,
That's an official win right there.
yeah, and it was just like, wow, if I had known what it was, I probably would have babied it, fought it forever, drug out the fight, and been super careful, and then probably lost it in the waves last minute because I was being too careful.
Yep.
But
Mm.
but yeah, that's an interesting one. Real quick, a couple other ones. I'd a really big Cubera snapper. It was I think the year before that I got on my own was ended up 73 pounds. And I got that. I was all by myself. I was standing about 20 feet up on the rock and hooked that guy up in the rocks, and I landed him up through the rocks in the surf. And when I got him into the rocks, and he was laying in the mossy rocks in the water, I was hoping the wave would throw him up a little bit further. Right when I got him there, the line broke, and I was 20 feet up on a rock. So I basically threw my rod, ran down the rocks, jumped on this fish in the white water as the next wave came up, and wrestled him out of the tide pool. And that was an amazing catch, my biggest snapper ever. And the Pacific snapper record is actually only 78 pounds, so I was pretty close to a world record on that one, and that's pretty wild. Then the other once in my lifetime catch was a golden phase leopard grouper, which is an amazing fish. If you guys have never heard of it or seen it, you should look it up. It's kind of like an albino version of a species. One out of every, I think they say like out of every 3,000 or something comes out that color, and it's bright golden orange. I mean, it looks like a tangerine, and there's not a scale out of place on it. Every bit of the fish is that color, and he was about 15 pounds or so, and just looked like a giant bright orange grouper. And yeah, I couldn't believe it. I've only seen him diving a few times before in the wild, and I got one to hit a lure off of an island way up in the Cortez side, and just super blown away. As I was holding it, I remember thinking, like, I don't want to let this guy go yet. Like, I want to spend more time with him. And I got a little bit of time in a tide pool, keeping him alive, and you're just admiring him. He looks like some mythical creature, and then I jumped in the water with him to let him go, and he took off like a bullet, and it was really cool. So those are probably, I mean, a few of many really cool catches, but yeah.
That's pretty damn awesome. Man, yeah, you've had some good stuff there then. I mean, I'm not saying it's a full life, but man, is that a lot of really cool memory building.
Yeah. Yeah,
This question,
if I ever doubt it, all I have to do is go back through my phone and just start scrolling back through,
yeah,
and I think I have like 40,000 pictures on my phone, and 3/4 of them are fish pictures. So
I get that. I think
Yep.
everybody listening
I
to
think
this
we all
gets
do.
that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Well, this is going to be a hard question then. I don't know if you're going to have an answer for this. What is a bucket list fish you want to catch?
Ooh, this is not super hard. I got about 2 or 3 that are right up at the top of that list.
Okay.
One is I would like to catch a nice sized wahoo from shore, from
Ooh.
land-based position, and so I guess in that same realm is a wahoo or a billfish, big billfish, or yellowfin tuna. So those 3 fish are on my list of ones that I would really like to get a big one from shore. Just you don't hear about it very often in the world. So
That was going to be my next question on that one is like, is that is that an occurrence, a common occurrence or an uncommon down there?
no, no one's ever done it down here. I don't know anyone who's landed billfish or wahoo from shore. There's a couple guys who've gotten some yellowfin. I've caught some small ones. Nothing big, but it would be nice to get one with some weight behind it and have an amazing fight with it, But yeah, some of those things. I mean, the billfish category. I've stayed up at night trying to figure out how I would land it if I hooked it. There's different scenarios. Like one of the smaller, medium ones, yeah, you could probably stop it. But if you get into something bigger, that's like, okay, now what are we gonna do? How are we gonna? And so yeah, those are some bucket list fish right there.
That's fair. I mean, those are some serious notorious ones. That's great.
That, or there's a dogtooth tuna is another one. I'd have to go to the other side of the world for that, but that's another crazy fish.
But dude, it's important. Like in our world, it's always good to have goldfish. It's like, all right, you can catch the same thing over and over, and that's fine and dandy. But there's something about catching the unicorns that just
Yep.
makes it the never ending pursuit.
Yeah.
Oh, good stuff. All right, so we're gonna start moving into the tips and tricks. Actually, no, I lied. We got one more question in this category. Is there a dream place that you wish to go fish sometime?
Ooh. Yeah, there's a few, and I'm planning on trying to get to them in the next year to 2 years. So, I mean, Oman's a big one for a lot of the big fish over there, the GTs and yellowfin tuna, and tons
Oman
of
is
reef fish.
nice.
I would have a blast over there for sure. So that's definitely one on the list. And then, yeah, I think that probably there's some places in mainland Mexico I'd like to go, a few places off of South America that I'd like to go. Madagascar would be an interesting one too.
That would be.
New Zealand. New Zealand's a good one for those huge yellowtail they have over there. Where else? There's actually, and I haven't done a lot of research on it, but there's actually some really good places off of Japan. So you don't really think of Japan as like a huge area to go shore fish, but I know a couple guys who have gone over there and done that and caught some really crazy fish. Those big dogtooth tuna run through there as well. So.
See, I would have thought Japan would have been a great place to go for shore fishing, but
yeah,
I'm weird like that. I'm like,
yeah,
anywhere there's sand, I want to put my toes.
Never really considered it till I ran into somebody who had done it out there.
So funny you brought up Oman. I was there. I was there on a deployment. We hung out at the embassy. We were there for a couple days, and I wasn't into surf fishing like I am now. And like, thinking of as soon as you said it, my butt hurt meter went up about 20 points. So yeah, that's good. But yeah, Oman is a beautiful country. That's a real cool place to visit. I really enjoyed that place.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Hopefully, I can get out there one day.
I'll be following your channel, watching. Well, we've nailed into this one for sure. So we're going to move into the tips and tricks here. But before we do, we got to get into the bait checks. Let's do that. Is the first bait check of the episode. So make sure you're out there checking your bait. It's been a little bit. We're a little bit further in than we normally are. But hey, it's always important to make sure you get that. If you haven't caught anything yet, bring it back in, switch it up. Maybe you got to go top to bottom. Maybe you got to change up, maybe mullet. Who knows? Change it up. You got to catch fish. This bait check is being brought to you by the Sinker Guy. Head on over to thesinkerguy.com and take a look at everything Chip's got going on in the Sinker Guy garage. You need rigs? He's got you covered. Sinkers? Well, yeah, it's in his name. He's got Sputniks, a whole bunch of them. You need a special size? Reach out to him. Chip might be able to hook you up. Terminal tackle, beads, and tools all in the shop. So thesinkerguy.com. Quick shipping, great customer service, and great products. I use it, and I can definitely endorse it because I love the stuff. Good. All right, so now we're moving into the fun part here. Now your whole area, you've got holes. Obviously, you've got honey holes, you've got spots that are, and yep, I know this produces. I know this is good. But if you were to think about it, how would you do this? How would you plan your fishing trips?
Usually I base stuff first off of weather conditions, knowing how different spots are angled. Here at the tip, we have there's such difference in weather from the inside, the Cortez side to the Pacific side. And when you're going every day, you kind of know where the bait's been hanging out at. And then from there, you kind of go with weather. So how's the wind coming down? Usually, because we have a big mountain range down the middle of the Baja, we get the wind comes down and splits either one side or the other. So if it's windy on the one side, it's calm on the other usually, and vice versa. So you pick your spots depending on how you want to fish that weather. And some of the beaches have, a big hill on one side of them, so it blocks some of the wind coming down from the north, and you have a protected area on the inside of that you can fish. And then also sometimes it's the other way around, but Also, what we get here is we get a lot of change in the sand level. So the beaches will get a lot of sand added to them or subtracted off of them. And so it's important to kind of know which spots, if you're going for fish that are going to be targeting off of structure, then you want to know if those spots are going to be uncovered or covered up with the sand, because that beach could change 50 yards, 100 yards different. A lot of the spots could be covered up with sand one day or 1 week or something, and then the next week, all those spots are uncovered and there's fish using it for structure and cover and bait fish coming into it. And so it has a lot to do with how the weather's going, what the currents have done with the sand. Also, water temperature is a big one. And I think this one applies probably anywhere you're fishing. If you've ever heard all the guys talk about, oh, there's a temperature break or a temp break or, something like that. Usually what that refers to is you got cold water meeting warm water somehow, and it could be a matter of just a couple degrees different. But wherever those two currents or temperatures meet is typically where you'll find a lot of the bait fish. And once you find the bait, you find the bigger fish. So you're always looking for that bait. And here, especially late spring, early summer, we have a very drastic temperature change. So coming up from the Pacific side, coming down, we have really cold water coming down, which is, really cold for us, is in the mid upper 60s. And then out of the Cortez side, you'll get water that meets it that'll be in the, low to mid 80s. So, and that can meet so drastically that it'll be the difference between one beach to the next. And I mean, within a half a mile, you can have a 15 and at times a 20-degree temperature difference within a half mile. And so that translates into like a lot of bait coming into one area, and that's where you're gonna, if you're on the cold side of that temperature break, you could be in absolutely no fish at all. And if you're on the really warm side of it, where it's just been even for a while, you could also be in no fish at all. But if you get right on the spot, it could just be one of the best days you've ever had. So paying attention to that, looking at it, and certain times of year, that temperature line moves overnight. It'll move to the next beach up, and it'll move back to one. So you're constantly looking for that. I mean, even with the satellite, I subscribe to some, satellite temperature sites online and, pay money for updated images for that. But even with that, they take 3 images a day or something. And I still go out to the beach, and the first thing I do is run down in the dark, stick my feet in the water. And right away, it's like, nope, we're at the wrong beach. It's ice cold. The water's ice cold. Let's get back in the car. We're done. It's not even worth staying here. And so there's things like that. That's how you kind of gauge where the fish are and what conditions you want to fish in. And so that's one way I kind of look at things.
Dude, that thermal, that's no joke down there. You ain't kidding. And that's
Yeah.
impressive that I didn't realize it moved like that. I figured once you got it out of the Sea of Cortez, once you got around the hook around, even with the tide movement, you were getting the bleed off. I didn't realize you'd have such a shift north and south.
Yeah, no, and it's usually that break tends to be around the corner on the Pacific side, which is, that's what's good for us, is because we get all that migration of bait coming through there, and it sticks on some of the really good beaches over there.
Yeah. And you're the first person to ever mention that about the sand cleaning off and covering the structure and the move back. That haven't really heard that very much in any of the other episodes we've talked about. So that's a real cool twist, because normally,
Mhm.
yeah, you sand moves up. We all know it. Sand moves. You get new breaks. You get new holes. You get new cuts. You get all that fun stuff. But to hide structure and expose structure for fish life, that's definitely a tough one. And with your water clarity too, that
Yeah.
really makes a huge difference, because you can see. You know how that goes. But
I mean,
yeah, that's
there's times a year where you'll literally be standing on dry sand where you were catching fish a month ago. That's crazy.
that's nuts, man.
Yeah.
That's absolutely crazy. Okay, so that's what you plan your trips. Okay, so you've let's pick up from basically where you just said there with your feet in the water, because I think that's going to matter into the next one. Now that you've decided, all right, this is the beach I'm going to fish, how do you select the spot to start fishing?
And first thing in the morning, first thing you're looking for as it's starting to get light in the morning is any kind of bait activity. So especially this time of year, from late spring to through summer, the bait fish are mullet, and they're big. They're 12, 14-inch fish, and so that's big bait, big fish. You're looking for big stuff, chasing them, and anything that's chasing them is a big fish. So those guys, you're looking right up in the waves. You'll see them getting chased, singled out, crashed on, and sometimes you can see them on the surface. You'll look down the beach way far, and on a calm day where there's no wind, you'll see them kind of rippling on the surface. Or the mullet tend to flip naturally. If you've ever been around a school of mullet, they'll just sit there and kind of flip on the surface, and while they're resting, and they make a noise also that it's kind of like a popping noise that you hear. And you get so cued in on like looking and listening for these things over the years that I can drive my truck down the beach, and if I kind of stick my head out the window, you can hear when they're popping in the surf in the dark out there.
Oh, wow.
So there's times I'll drive by in the dark, and I mean I won't even be looking at the water because it's dark out, and you just be driving, and all of a sudden I hear them pop pop pop, and then you just stop the car, and you're like, all right, we're here, this is it. And you get out, and as it gets light, there's the whole school of bait right in front of you, and stuff starts going off. But you want to look for bait first. That's always the best thing. Sometimes if that's not working, you want to go fish some structure, then go down to one of the corners or rock piles where you see structure around, and switch up your lures. Go from, instead of on the big sand beaches fishing like top water or faster jigs and stuff on the big sand beaches, then you switch over in the rocks to stuff more like stick baits or poppers or swim baits that you can work a little bit slower and twitch and work more natural around the rocks, and hope for some reaction strikes around the rocks. That's a good way to do it too.
Really cool add in there with you did rock fishing versus sand fishing. That's I'm not saying I picked that up from you, but I may have noticed something in your videos. I'm like, why is this? Well, I see what you're doing. Okay.
Yeah.
Very, very cool in the knowledge.
Yeah.
All right. So we've got those pieces there. Now, is there a certain tidal swing that you prefer to fish or anything like that? Or does tides not matter to you? What do you look at there?
No, you do get you definitely have some good changes with more tide movement. Fish tend to feed more aggressively with more extreme tide motion. So and that happens around the extremes of the moon cycle. So you get a full moon or new moon, and your tides are more pronounced. If you look at a tide chart during like a new moon or something, the days, like the 1 or 2 days leading up to it and 1 or 2 days after, you get the tide swings are way up and then way down and then way up, and then you get into the midpoint in between, which is half moon obviously, and then your tide swings are just kind of very gradual. The highs aren't very high, the lows aren't very defined lows. It's just kind of a little squiggly line across there for your tides, and that tends to be kind of the worst part in the cycle for fishing, is when there's very little tide movement around a half moon. So you either want to choose one or the other, and a lot of people are like, well, full moon fish feed at night and they're not going to be hungry in the morning. And I think there's some truth to that, but it tends to happen more offshore in the blue water stuff, where fish are just always swimming and always. I think inshore, all the bait rushes into the beach right early in the morning, and that full moon doesn't make a difference on how fish feed. They just go off of the tides. So it's better to be on one extreme or the other. Full moon or new moon around those tides is best. And 1 hour either side of the extreme of the tide, whether it's the high tide or the low tide. I kind of prefer high tides. So an hour leading in, the hour after, those are good times to fish.
Very interesting. And you bring up some really cool points there with the difference in the moons, because normally full moon fishing always just pisses me off.
Mm.
Because I don't have a lot of luck. It's like every time I go out full moon fishing, they've been eating all night, and I was sleeping. So I'll admit it was my failure.
Uh-huh.
But you try to get them in the morning and the day, they're like, bro, I'm full. I'm just gonna lay here, man. But with the way the tidal swing works, that's a really cool new nugget of knowledge there. Very nice. Um, but you brought up one, and this isn't on your list yet, but you brought up a really good question about nights. What are some effective strategies for surf fishing at night, and what kind of safety precautions should anglers take during that nighttime fishing?
So yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't do a lot of night fishing as it is, mostly because a lot of the fish that we're targeting, especially if you're going for 'em with lures, are very visual feeders, and I I haven't had a lot of success fishing lures at night, which I know on the East Coast of the U.S. they've yeah, I mean that's kind of the key hours going for stripers or something like that on the East Coast, and all those guys fish at night, and most of the time they don't even think about going out midday.
Yeah.
But yeah, the nighttime stuff, I know a lot of guys down here who are successful with it, but when they're fishing cut bait and pyramid sinkers on the bottom, or throwing out chunks of mackerel or skipjack, or um, they'll get into sometimes some snapper, but you know they end up fighting a lot of stingrays and pufferfish and
Yeah.
the sharks, like little sharks and stuff. But it's kind of, I don't know, that never really was too interesting to me, I guess.
Makes sense.
I didn't like sitting around forever and waiting for the bite.
Yeah, it doesn't
I,
sound like that's your type of fishing. Like your
yeah,
type
I'd
of
rather be
fishing
casting all day
is
and
up and active. You're an
yeah,
active walker, and I love that. And I've noticed that, like I don't see you out there with the beach cart lugging the monsters, setting the sand spikes. No, you're a mover, and I think it's really cool. It's an important too because
yeah.
you can go change anything in a moment's notice. But yeah, I was wondering if you did that at night. I was like, it's bold. Night fishing,
Yeah.
different species come out to play.
Yeah, I mean, some of the guys do good. One of the fish that they do good on that I actually don't hardly ever get on lures is triple tail down here.
Oh, okay.
They get some really big triple tail down here at night on bait, just sitting around, and I've almost been tempted to go out and do it just to knock it off my list and get a big one on that. But it's one of those things. I'm like, that sounds so just like a dumb way to, like, frustrating way to fish. I don't know. I'd dealing with bait and sitting around. I don't know. It's just one of those things for me. I'd rather try and catch them. I've hooked them twice on lures and lost them both times on the way in because they jump and they're a squirrely fish. And um, yeah, I actually, on one of them I had a camera tied on my line, and so I got the underwater footage of him biting the lure and the whole fight, and watched how I lost him, which
Oh,
was pretty wild. It was crazy to me how much the hooks traveled around on him, and I caught him on a stick bait, and I had one hook in the corner and one hook on the side of his cheek. Then the one in his mouth came loose, and he was only hooked by the cheek, and he started shaking around. He hit a rock and it bumped it, and the one who was in his mouth stuck to his forehead, and then the one that was on his cheek came loose, and then I was pulling him just from his forehead, and then I ended up losing him off of his forehead one, which was never one of the original hookups on him. So just crazy.
it's a
Uh,
hell of an afterplay, though. I mean, which
yeah,
cam system were you using?
I just tied one of those little water wolf cameras on there.
Yeah, yeah, I know what you're talking
Uh,
about. Okay.
yeah, and they're kind of a hokey camera, cheap. I wish some company would come out and do a really good one of those. I think Weston is doing one um, similar, but it just seems like a good quality one of those would be such an addition to the film world of fishing. Not just they're doing it so that you can cast it out on a pond with bait and just let it sit on the bottom and you can look at your bait. But for an active casting, added video content, that would be a really cool thing if you could get it in higher quality and something like that. But
So there's a
yeah,
couple. Well, we can talk after the show. I know of
yeah.
one. I have one in my brain that's telling me it might be
Huh.
right up your alley, but like I hear a lot with especially in our community. The Go Fish Cam
Uh-huh.
is a big one here, and the only issue I have with that one and the one that I have, which I'm not going to talk about here on this podcast, I'll talk about another time because I
Uh-huh.
haven't got full troubleshooting done with it, is it's great because it's neutrally buoyant, which is like, okay, that's fine and all, but they're 4 ounces. So I
Yeah.
mean, you're already hucking
They're
one
adding.
thing out. Yeah, and it's like, all right,
Yeah.
how much do I want to see if I can make this rod go on that much
Yeah.
weight? So yeah,
I
it's
actually did throw around the Go Fish Cam for a little while.
oh, did you? Okay.
Did some footage with it. I I liked I liked all the footage that I got that was actually most of the stuff not ever connected to the fish. As soon as I hooked fish with it, for some reason or another, it seemed like the automatic light sensor on it wasn't keeping up with the if you had a fish that had any kind of shine to it and it shone, it was just like this giant white shiny thing in the screen, and it didn't compensate for the it was like their light sensor or something on the camera. So then it was just like you're just looking at this big like shiny silver thing going, and there was no definition in the video, which was kind of a little disappointing on that. So I quit using it actually because of that. Maybe it's a glitch they've fixed since then, but it was back in the day when they first kind of started coming out with it, and um, I was actually excited to use it, but I know the Water Wolf, even though it was lower quality video, did compensate better for that particular thing.
Yeah. I think the Water Wolf was pretty light too, if I'm not mistaken. It was like a
Yeah,
what, 2
yeah,
ouncer or something?
yeah. It was super light, and then but it only recorded 720p.
Ah,
So
yeah.
when you're trying to mix it into like either 1080 or 4K stuff, then
It
it
doesn't
really
like
looked,
that.
yeah, it really looked low quality. Um,
Yeah, that hurts.
yeah.
Um, so let's talk about the lures. So you've mentioned a couple different ones. I mean, you've mentioned
Mhm.
poppers, stick baits. What other kind of lures that you like to use for your fishing?
Typically when I'm going out, I'll have at least this time of year about three styles, and then multiple you know different lures or brands or models around the styles. The stick baits are a big one. I really like fishing stick baits a lot, just because they're very versatile. You can work them faster, and if you need to, you can skip them up on top. And then if you really want to slow them down, you can go really slow and just like slow twitch them, and they'll swim back and forth and look very natural. And especially some of the custom made ones are, they're so natural looking now. They look, you can match some of the baits so well with them. That's a good one, and they cast fairly decent. And then another style would be, then you go from your stick baits that are kind of subsurface to surface lures and skipping lures. And those tend to be a really great tool in your surf fishing bag, so to speak, because they cast really far. They tend to be some of the better casting lures. Real streamlined, got some weight to them, something that's 2.5 to 4 ounce, um, and you can launch them a mile out there and then reel really fast and have them skipping across the surface. And they draw in fish from out further. You can cover a lot of ground with them. Usually, what I'll do is walk a big sand beach and just cast. I'll cast, do a full cast, and I'll walk 10 steps while I'm reeling in or something. Make another cast way out there, walk another 10 steps as I'm reeling it. You're kind of systematically covering a beach, and you can get out. I mean, with some of my better ones that are weighted just right for the setup I'm throwing, I can get about 180 yards out of a cast, and so
Nice.
you're covering a lot of water as you walk down a beach, and you go 200-300 yards down the beach, casting every 10 steps, and you've covered a lot of ground. That's a good way to do it. And then then you have, I'd say poppers kind of fall under that same category a little bit, except I prefer something like the GT ice creams, that are more of a surface lure that you're kind of smoking in on the surface, mainly because, well, one, poppers take a lot of work to work them. I mean, once
Yeah,
you
they
do
do.
10 or 15 casts on a big popper, your arm's about to fall off. And so there's that. Then the other is if you have fish actively feeding around you on the beach, poppers tend to be just a pain in the butt because you see a fish come out chasing, you make a cast, maybe your cast is a little bit off and you land behind the fish, and the fish is still going, and he's going all the way up to the shore chasing this bait fish. With a popper, you don't have, because it's grabbing water on the way in, you don't have enough time to smoke it in quick and get another cast on that fish. With any other surface lures or stick baits, you can pop it up to the surface and reel really fast and come in with it and get another cast on it really quick, and have a chance at that fish. And so poppers tend to be kind of a hindrance when you have a lot of activity going on. But they're also a good tool for drawing in fish when you just need the biggest, meanest splash in the ocean. You're trying to turn the heads of all the fish out there. You can make a big splash with some good poppers. So there's that. Then another time of year we use a lot of jigs, like sardine type jigs. We'll even take some of the smaller vertical jigs for like offshore fishing, stuff that's in the 3-ounce range, like 100 gram stuff, and looks like a sardine or something like that. And those also cast a mile. You can let them sink down to the bottom on big sand beaches and then jig them up fast from the bottom and get bites from the Sierra mackerel that we get down here. That's a really good one. So I'd say half the year we fish jigs and stuff like that, and then the other half were stick baits and poppers and surface lures.
Very cool. Okay. That makes a ton of sense on the different fish too. And I like the knowledge piece. This is actually a perfect time. We've been going 50 minutes, and now we need to get another one done. Oops, a little behind. This is your next bait check of the episode. And hopefully you caught a bunch of fish, and this knowledge, hopefully you've been like, all right, I'm done with this. I'm throwing on a lure, man. This is just getting me better. And you're just going to start playing different games, because there's a ton of little cool nuggets right there just dropped, especially on how to cover more beach. Hopefully you guys picked up on that. This bait check is being brought to you by Ninja Tackle, ninjatackleva.com. Great website for getting your hands on those rods from 7-footers up to 13. You guys know I love the 7-footer for the days where I'm throwing really close to shore, my kayak, stuff like that. I have 2 Ninja Diagers that are 12 inches. I've got my 8.6 and I'm throwing metal on and other lures. I'm throwing that all out there. Love that set of products. You need reels, rigs, bait. He's got it all in there. If you're into shooting and firearms and firearm accessories, Ninja Tactical. Lots of great other cool pieces in that side for you to take a look at. Always good. Matt's doing great things, and he's got great customer service, and he's there to take care of you. So ninjatackleva.com. Okay, so now we've really crushed into this, man. I mean, you target so many different fish, though. Do you go out with a, hey, look, I'm catching roosters and roosters only, or do you kind of go with a range of what you want to target?
Part of it depends on the time of year. We definitely have specific seasons for certain fish. The roosters and jacks tend to be together most of the time. So there's a time of year where it's kind of roosters, jacks, and really big needlefish. We get these needlefish that are like 5 foot long and
Wow.
huge. I mean, they look like a small marlin or something, and they're fun. A lot of people see them as like a nuisance fish, but when you get into the really big ones, like, we caught one a couple weeks ago that was 20 pounds, and I mean that's a big needlefish. Yeah, I mean, it's like that big around, and it has a head that's as wide as my hand when you go to grab them across the back of the head. And, they're a cool fish. I mean, granted, roosters are kind of what everyone wants to go for, but so one time of year is kind of those roosters, jacks, and needlefish, and that's about end of May through. We'll still have a couple roosters hanging around through September, and so we're coming up to the end of the season right now for them. As soon as the storms start rolling through, they kind of move on. So that's the season for the roosters. Then we get into the fall, where it's like October, end of September, October, November, even December, and we have a good shot at catching Dorado from the shore, or mahi, or dolphin fish. They depends where you're at, what they call them.
Depends on what area of the world you're in, bro.
Yeah, exactly. But they come in the fall close enough to where you can cast to them from shore and get them on topwater stuff. So you're skipping those GT ice creams or jigs too. You get jigs and smoke them across the surface, and you get some good bites on mahi. You don't land a lot of them because they're really good at jumping and shaking out the hook, and that's just kind of a signature move for them. But they are very fun to hook up to, and they're fast as lightning when you're chasing. You can't outrun them by reeling as fast as you can go. So that's a really fun one that time of year. Then we get into December, and about mid-December or so, all the Sierra mackerel start showing up. The water cools down, and they're a fun one because they are also very good to eat. They're some of the best eating fish down here, and they look just like a Spanish mackerel on the East Coast, but they're different. They're a different variety, I guess, and they have super white meat, not oily, not fishy,
Oh
and some
wow.
of the best eating fish you'll ever have. So, and you can have mornings where you get into a lot of them. Like you'll get them. They're a quick bite, super early in the morning, but you can get them back to back on casts. I mean, you can literally cast 15 times and catch 10 fish. You know, I mean, it's there can be mornings like that, and they're super fun. You keep them. They're in the mackerel family. You're not in danger of wiping them out, so you can keep as many as you want. There's no limit on them, and that's all with jigs that time of year. So metal jigs, early morning, and bite is pretty much done by about 8:30 or so. They're done and out of there by that time, and so that season lasts from about mid-December through, I'd say, beginning of April or so, and then another month goes by, and then you're back into the Cabrera snapper, the Colorado snapper, and then the rooster fish start showing up, and you have an overlap with them, and so it's a year-round thing. I'd say probably our slowest time of year is starting about now, where we get the really hot water in. Our water is almost up to 90 degrees, and most of the areas around here it's 88 to 90 degrees, and the fish start to move out to deeper water, and so it's not quite as productive until we get some of those storms clear out some of the warm water.
Okay. Yeah. Warm water does never, in my opinion, it's not a
Yeah.
great combination with surf fishing. So you want that mid range where you're going to get
Uh-huh.
plenty of customers to come in and get after it.
Mhm.
What do you do when you go fishing in a brand new place?
Brand new place. I mean, I guess you kind of take a little bit of your knowledge from home, wherever you're used to fishing, and you start there. You translate it into that, and then obviously, I like talking. So you start talking to people in the area. Start, talk to some of the locals, and ask them what they've seen. Doesn't mean that they've caught that fish or the way that you would catch it. Just ask them, what are those, what feeds around there? What's the possibility of getting stuff? So that's a big thing. I went to Australia. I fished Australia a few years back, and um, it was fun going out there and taking what I knew from here. And I went out there, and the guys told me half the stuff I was doing for out here wouldn't work out there. And don't take it at face value. Go ahead and do it yourself. I found a couple things. They laughed at me because I had a 12-foot rod, and all of them, they all use like 7, 8 foot, 8 foot stuff, 8.5 max. I mean, I even had a 9-foot rod, and they're like, "Oh, that's too long." And so I got out there. I'm like, well, screw that. I'm still taking my 12-foot rod because that's what I catch fish on. That's what I know how to fish with. And we got out there, camped on these islands way offshore, and sure enough, morning time came around. We were on the rock as gray light was coming around, and you could see a big school of fish out in the distance in this bay kind of coming in. And they have a long-tailed tuna out there, and it's kind of looks like a skinnier version of a bluefin tuna.
Okay.
And they get up to, I don't know, I'm not sure what they got up to. I got one that was about 40 pounds. It was like 35, 40 pounds. And they came into a certain distance, and my buddy who was out there he was casting with his 8-foot rod, trying to whip a jig way out there, and not making it out there. And I'm like, well, I could overshoot that whole school right there.
Hold my
Step aside.
beer.
Yeah, exactly. So put a jig on and whipped it way out there, and it was like nah, right away, hooked up right away. So, anyways, that was a fun one to disprove them on that. He didn't think I'd be able to land it. It was no problem. So um, that, and I've fished Florida a few times, which is not too dissimilar from what we do here. But I wanted to get a big tarpon, and I had been going back for years and to the same spot trying to get a big tarpon off the dock. And everyone said, you can't land it from the dock. You can hook it from the dock, but you have to hop in the boat and chase it down in the boat. And I took my surf rod, same one I've caught all my big fish on down here, and they go, nah, you're gonna pull the hook on that rod's too long. You're just gonna pull the hook on him. And nope, sure enough, it was second attempt. I pulled the hook on the first one. I'll be honest. I did pull the hook on the first one. Second attempt, got the hook in it, and this thing went nuts, jumping everywhere. I had to put a ton of pressure on him, and everyone was yelling at me to get in the boat, and I didn't want to get in the boat, so I stayed on the dock, and I managed to turn him around, and the thing taped out to between 180 pounds, 200 pounds. It was a big fish.
Ooh, yeah, that's
And
not tiny.
no, landed it, got it up there with my surf rod, and felt pretty good. So all that to say, go into the area, ask a little bit about it, get a feel for it, but then do what you know and what you're comfortable with and what you trust in. That always, like they say, you're going to catch fish on the lure you have the most faith in. Yeah.
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 And that's the one you're going to tie every time too. It never fails.
I don't fish crocodiles too much, but I know some guys that fish crocodile lures, and they have so much faith in those things, and they go out and they've outfished me a couple days on the beach with their crocodile lure, and I'm like, shoot, I don't fish them that much, but you're
Yeah, it gets me in trouble having some favorites. I shouldn't, but I really do. I was like, you're still good.
Yeah.
And then you feel really bad when it flies off. Okay, gotta go buy another one of those.
Yeah.
Oh man, gets you good. Oh, okay. You crushed this. Thank you so much. You've just been nailing this one for the tips and tricks and knowledge. Now let's get into your business. Let's talk about guiding. I mean, you started off an interesting point there in the beginning. Your buddy came by, and that's when you caught the monster rooster here. And that would have been like the set match for me. Like, yep, this is what I'm doing. But what got you to say, all right, that's it. I'm gonna be a guide.
It was actually someone else down here. There was a guy who started running a taco shop down here, and a lot of people who come down here know Jansen Lures, and it was Stefan who, way back in the day, I'd hang out in his taco shop and we'd just talk fishing half the day. And he goes, "Oh, you should start taking people out. I used to guide, don't do it anymore, and you should take people out. I'll send people your way." And I was like, I don't know if I want to do it for work. I like doing it for fun. I'm not sure if I want to turn it into a job. And he kept pushing for it, and I was like, all right, well, shoot, I'll buy a couple setups. Yeah, I'll do it. And so then it was like one of those, I'd take one person out a week or something like that, or a couple people out a week, and it wasn't a very big deal, and just a little bit of extra money on the side for gas and lures. And then I think it really started taking off. Well, then I got married, and then it was like, well, if I want to keep doing this for work, I actually have to turn it into a job and like actually advertise and take it serious and actually make money if I want to pay rent, So, then it was more serious. I advertised a little bit more, and then the whole social media thing kind of took off. I remember before it was all, you just printed pictures out, and you had, printed your Kodak or your pictures out at Costco, and you showed people, here's a stack of pictures, flip through those. And then it became, you started posting stuff on Facebook and on Instagram. Instagram even came later. I mean, that was quite a bit later. But as soon as you started doing that, then you start getting all this attention. And I remember it was like I never took out a person that I hadn't met in person before, like at the tackle shop, or was like a direct contact person. And like I never booked people ahead of time, which was interesting. It was always like I'm standing in the tackle shop, meet someone, hey, you want to go out Thursday? I got room Thursday. You want to, And then it switched from that to now I'm booking people online before they even come to Cabo, and that was like a huge deal. And that's just about the only way that it happens now. So, yeah, it's just an interesting journey on how stuff changes. And now I don't advertise at all, and most of the time I'm looking for a day off, and it's nice to have just a day that you're not, on the beach, that you can go out and either fish for yourself or, fish on the boat or do something a little different. So it's changed for sure.
Damn the success.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's great, dude. I mean, seriously, that kind
Yeah.
of that's phenomenal with the growth. I mean, and to be able to get it through word of mouth business, or people have seen you and then they know, like, yeah, this guy's legit. You built that, and you've just created this monster, and it's doing well. It's all, I mean, it's all on your back and all that hard work, and it's paid off so well. And your stuff is
Well,
going to
apparently
be fun.
consistent. Yeah, if you're consistent for year after year, then it just turns into something.
Yeah, it kind of does. Who knew?
Yeah, yeah, right.
What comes with going on a trip with you?
So you get out of tourist Cabo, which is kind of cool. I think that's a big thing that kind of gets overlooked, because everyone who comes to Cabo, it's just always the party scene or downtown or the marina, and it's neat to get away from all of that and get up on some of the beaches where some days, I mean, you never even see anyone else. You're out there, you're all on your own. And so we get up there, we meet actually right now, because Mexico is no longer doing daylight savings time change now.
Really?
Yeah,
Good
this is
for
the first
them.
year.
I mean, I am
It,
fully on board with that.
yeah, it's kind of crazy. So now, I mean, because we chase the light in the morning, now instead of meeting people at 5:30, now I meet people at 4:30 in the morning, that's always a fun conversation to have with someone who's on vacation. Is I'm going to see you at the dock at 4:30, and they're like, "Say what?"
Yeah, that's what I
um,
said.
yep. So yeah, so we meet at 4:30 right now, and we've been fishing till around 10:30 in the morning, and most of that action happens earlier in the morning, that first light, all the activity, and some days it pushes through the morning longer, and we're chasing fish longer. Um, and it's cool because now you can actually scout for fish with drones, which is neat. So we bring a drone along, and on those really big, multiple mile sand beaches that you don't know where the bait is or what's going on, you can fly the drone down the beach and be like, oh, 1 mile down the beach that way, there's a school bait. It's got 4 roosters on it. Let's go. And you can run down the beach and go target those exact fish, which is just a neat thing nowadays that we can do. Um, and all the gear is included, and I'd say just bring sunscreen and a bottle of water, and you're pretty much good.
Nice.
So,
Yeah, technology has made things somewhat easier sometimes.
yeah, for sure.
So what do you do, or what do you normally target with a charter? Is it kind of, hey, look, this is the species, this is what we're doing, or is it just, hey, customer wants this is what we're firing after?
No, it's pretty much like this is what's going on, because if you go into like, if you're not in rooster season, and like 95% of the people coming down like, I want to catch a rooster fish, that's on my bucket list. It's like, well, there's not really rooster fish around right now, so I mean, why don't we go for whatever's going right now,
Right.
and that way we're not just casting at water. So and it is definitely what's there. Let's go catch something. Regardless of what it is, it's going to be something cool. Probably something that they haven't caught before. Um, and even if it is, it's probably going to put up a good fight. So
Yeah,
I think that's what everyone's after in the end, is some action, anyways. So
probably.
yeah,
The
right
tug is the
now, it's
drug.
surprisingly enough, even in the middle of rooster season, you can go out mornings, and like I went out this morning, probably saw some of the most activity that I've seen all year. It was crazy, right before a storm.
Yeah, the storm front.
The
Yeah.
fish were just going nuts and jumping and chasing and feeding. I didn't catch a single fish.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, get that. And
Wow.
but I got some of the coolest videos you'll ever see.
I bet.
Uh,
There's a win.
yeah, I finally, after I figured out that it was going to be really tough to stick into a fish, I was like, all right, screw it. I'm grabbing the camera and I'm going to film. And I had my buddy with me, and he was casting and stuff. But it takes, when the fish are like that, they're so keyed in on the bait fish.
Yeah.
And where the bait fish were, the water had no visibility. It was really murky, a lot of silt in the water. And they were coming up and feeding on the surface, and you had to put your lure right on top of them while they were feeding. And it was just, you had to be a perfect aim. And even with that, you had to have some luck. And it was just more fun shooting them with the camera and filming them. And you know, and you'll watch the videos, and I told my buddy Angel, I go, man, people are gonna watch these videos, and I guarantee you, every single person who watches this video, in their heart, is gonna think, oh, I would have had that fish if I was there. If I was there, that fish would have been mine. No, because we're shooting it, and then I'll slow it down in slow motion, and you shoot it in 120 frames, and you can slow it down to where it looks all buttery smooth, and the fish is just right there chasing, and you're like, oh, I could have put my lure there 10 times, and he would have eaten it. And in reality, it all happens that fast, and they're moving forward so fast that by the time your lure flies through the air where you think it's going, they're already 20 feet ahead of you.
Yep.
And you, I mean, the proof is we both threw around at them for hours this morning, and neither one of us got a fish. So it's, I don't know, but the morning for both of us, even us who were like out every single morning and seeing it, this morning we both went away smiling at each other, going, that was an amazing morning. We had so much fun. And so, I mean, that's what you get. You get out there, you get to experience it. Sometimes you see them, sometimes, hooking up to them is a bonus, and you get that picture of your giant rooster on the beach, and sometimes they'll feed all the way up to your feet and you still can't get a hook in them, but you just never know.
Sure.
Every day's different out there.
Yeah. Why aren't you eating it?
Oh, man, I almost snapped my rod in half today. I was so fired up on one. There's two big roosters came in feeding. They were chasing this one bait, and they were just thrashing like a 10-foot square area. And I went for a cast, and as soon as my lure hit the water, it foul hooked.
Oh no! Wow.
And it just dug into the water, and I couldn't get it back quick enough to get another cast. It was like 100 yards out there, and it was foul hooked. And I drug it through a school of feeding roosters, foul hooked. And I felt like in my heart it would have been a fish for sure. It was a perfect cast. It just landed and foul hooked on itself, and felt like snapping my rod in half midway through the morning.
Yeah. That yes. I think everybody feels what you just felt right there. Like I'm feeling it over here. So you go out of Cabo, is that basically, I mean, hell, that's pretty much your service area then is Cabo. I mean, people are going to go there. It's not like they're going to be running further up. So going to go ahead and skip that one. How do people book a charter with you or look up going on a charter with you?
Best way is online. I got a website, cabosurfcaster.com. You can also email me. My email is same thing, cabosurfcaster@yahoo.com. And just shoot me an email. I can send you all the info. That's the best way to do it. I used to do stuff over social media, but that just got too complicated. I lost too many messages. So now I only do it over email or through the website, which is also goes straight to the email. So that's the best way.
Perfect. All right. Well, let's do this last bait check, and then we'll get into the social media, because you nailed in a really good piece with social, and I think it's a really important topic to dig in. So we're going to get right into that. So yeah, without further ado, let's check that bait. It is your third and final bait check of the episode. Hopefully you're doing just fine. This bait check is being brought to you by DS Custom Tackle. DSCustomTackle.com. Great website. Lots of cool stuff in there. Everything that you could need to possibly get. If you need to get hooks, done. Floats, easy day. Jigs, teasers. Yeah, they got it. If you want to be in there for your tackle supply, they'll take care of you with that. They can get you all set up. You just reach out to them. They'll happily have that conversation. DSCustomTackle.com. Get your order in today. You won't be sorry. Oh, all right. So we started talking a little bit there about social media. Let's continue with it. What made you decide, all right, I'm getting into content creation. I'm doing a YouTube channel. I'm putting all this online.
I guess that just came from a little bit of what I was talking about earlier, just enjoying sharing those moments with people. And, most people don't get to experience some of that. They never see roosterfish feeding and like having them chase stuff all the way up to your feet, or, just all that cool stuff that we see as fishermen when you get out there, and just gets you pumped. I mean, whether it's, you're on a bass pond somewhere and you're fishing top water for bass and you see them blow up on something over there, and you're just like, your legs go weak and you'd get your cast in. I mean, those kind of things, if you can capture that stuff on video, that's just the coolest thing for me. And the fact that, now we have social media where you can share it and get it out to a bunch of people, and people appreciate it too. It's fun when you get the appreciation from people, and people think what you're doing is cool and they appreciate your creativity. And, I really enjoyed doing it for that. I never really grew my YouTube channel that much because, well, for some reason or another, the algorithm on that wants you posting every single week, sometimes multiple
Oh,
times a
yeah.
week, in order for you to grow. And I really like doing really high quality edits or creative stuff where spend a lot of time putting it together and timing, and you make it's kind of like an art piece, and then I just couldn't crank that out. You can't crank that out that often and fast enough. So I ended up growing more on Facebook and Instagram. Instagram has really taken off. Unfortunately, you don't make as much money on that, but coming to this point, everyone's like, "Oh, you should have a YouTube channel. If you had that many followers on a YouTube channel, you'd be making good money," And it's like, "Oh, great. Well, I'm glad I'd focused on the one that didn't make money." Um, but it's all about, for me, being able to share it. And, my Instagram channel has a pretty good audience, and it's a lot of people who are super responsive, which is fun. I enjoy the interaction with people. I like the people that follow it often and comment. I try and get back to everyone I can get back to when they comment on something, and that part of it's fun. And then you run into those people at some point in person, and, it's, I don't know, it's just awesome to be, someone who can bring that to you if you're, stuck at a desk job somewhere, and, you want to see some of that stuff. And I know how it feels because I do it with other people around the world. I watch their stuff, and so it's like, oh man, I wish I could go over there and do that. And and then one day when you make it happen, then it's pretty awesome. So that's kind of what got me into the social media part of it. And then apart from that, it does help and builds up your business, and that way you advertise organically and that whole part of it as well.
So would you
So,
say, well, running this, or what has been one of the biggest lessons learned after running these channels and doing, all this piece with social media?
hmm, um, huh. I'd probably say just recently finding out that, just the way that, and it's not even the way the algorithm, where the algorithm really only works exactly how people work. So if you think about how people digest stuff, how people watch stuff, and even how lazy we are when we're scrolling through our phones, and if something doesn't catch your attention in 2 seconds, then you're over it. And so learning that is just kind of getting into people's heads on like what they want to see, and what's so that part of it has been a big, shift and change in how you have to make content to grow. And also, in order to get a bigger base where you can at some point make content that's longer form, and have an audience to see it. Because if you don't, you can make the most incredible film in the world, but if you only have like, 400 people who follow you, then it's like, where does that go? It doesn't really land anywhere. It doesn't get seen by too many people and appreciated. And then you feel like you spent a ton of work on just about nothing. And so it's kind of this, you build up so that you can also, share what you like, even if you are fighting the algorithm at the end of the day. But it also works good for you as a business, for getting sponsors, and for just in general. You build up to where you have an audience, and people start looking and going, oh well, you want to fish with this? We'll send you some of this, and so it's, I don't know, that whole journey. You can kind of climb that ladder as you go up, and push where you're at on that level. And apparently numbers mean everything on that, so that's kind of
It's the damn truth.
right. Yeah, I mean, he's running the podcast here. It's like, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that have ever thought about getting in this game, it's a fun game. It really is, but it truly is a numbers game. I mean, you want to make money? Okay, you got to hit XYZ wicket. They have these things in place for what they are going to get out of that deal to be able to give you a piece of their pie, and it's a fun one. But on the worst one I found too is with doing this is you'll get some really off the wall, like, hey, we'd love to sponsor you, and you're like, who are you and what are you offering me? And then you're like, okay, this sounds kind of cool, and then you realize it's not nearly as good as you thought it was, and it's really a bad thing, and you're like, no, go away, please.
Yeah.
But you do the best you can with it, so it's fun there. This question isn't on your paper, but this one I think ties in really well with what you just said. What advice do you have for an aspiring digital creator who want to blend this passion for surf fishing with the creative endeavors?
That's a good one.
Yeah, of course. I come up with new questions as we haven't, from the time I sent it to you
and
today. I'm like,
that's awesome. I mean, that's a really good question, because I've gone down the whole road of, it's being creative and trying to film stuff by yourself is one thing, and that has pretty much throughout the world translated into, I'm going to have a GoPro on my chest or on my head, and then we're going to take that and we're going to chop it up with maybe some vocal stuff or some voiceover stuff, and that's going to be my video. And so I kind of, as entertaining as some of that stuff is, it's like that's not the way I wanted to see a lot of the action that I was seeing. So I went for probably the more difficult approach, and probably the reason I didn't grow on YouTube, and just that whole thing is, I went for straight up camera with a lens where I could zoom in and try and catch action. And most of the time, and you'll see that in a lot of my videos, is I'm not in front of the camera in a lot of my videos. I am a little bit more now, but for most of the years it was me filming. So that becomes difficult. Then you end up just being a creative. You're making like cool videos, and they don't really have to do with you, and so your personality doesn't come out in the videos, and that's not really what YouTube wants. It works for Instagram. That's more of an artsy community type of, But so I'd say for someone who's doing it new, decide where you want to go with your videos. I mean, if you want to do that, like, first person point of view with the GoPro, I mean, there's some guys that do some really great jobs with that and are making good money with it on YouTube and doing that. I just kind of got tired of that same point of view. The reel is like right here in the shot every time, and it's right there, and nothing ever changes. And they're just like, oh shoot, he's going around a rock, and did you see him splash out? No, I didn't see him splash, because you got a wide angle lens, and I'm not seeing the splash that's 40 yards out there.
Right.
So if I want to see the splash that's 40 yards, I want to see it in slow motion. I want to see the fins come out of the water. I want to see all that. But you don't see it because it's either, the camera on the head or on the chest. So that was kind of my frustration with that. So now I found a really good buddy who loves to fish with me, and he's really getting into the camera, and he really loves the camera, and I taught him all I know about the camera. And now we're filming each other back and forth. And to be honest, he does a lot more filming me than I do of him. But I did this morning. I filmed him. But yeah,
Friendship.
yeah, it's one of those, like, yeah, so we're having fun with that, and now I get to be in front of the camera a little bit more, which is also another fun twist to it. And maybe we'll start growing the YouTube channel, making some more stuff where I guess my face is in front of the camera more, which is, that's interesting. I've always hated the sound of hearing my own voice, and you in podcast world you have to get used to that, I guess. I mean, you've heard your own voice for a lot, but most
Yeah.
people can't stand the sound of their own voice, and I'm no exception. So
Yeah, it took a while for me to realize that, like, what I hear in one ear while I'm speaking with, the headphone off
yeah, yeah,
versus hearing it in my head. I'm like, "God, they sound like that."
yeah,
Oof."
right.
And you're gonna hate it when I send you the post show and be like, "Here you
Oh
go.
yeah,
Here's your episode. Go ahead and listen to it." I'm like, "No, I'm
I
good.
never
I
listened to
trust
the
you."
whole thing. Yeah, I can't do it.
Oh, that's good. All right, let's move into the closing question because you already nailed the other stuff with running these, and especially with social media, and you nailed some really awesome points. And you guys can definitely go back and we'll talk about that here in the closing questions. So, advice for beginners, for someone who's just starting out in the surf fishing, what's one piece of advice that would you give them to get started on the right path?
Hmm. Well, if you have access to it where you live, and fish that area well, and you know figure out the tips and tricks in your area, but then take that and try and expand from there. Just move out from there, and you go on vacation somewhere, you go on a trip, you come to Cabo, come and try doing it down here. Go to do it mainland Mexico, or go in Florida. So I mean, there's great surf fishing all around, and you know find a style that you really enjoy, and figure out how to translate it into wherever you go, because fish are fish wherever you go. I mean, they act the same. They feed in very similar manners. You'll always find predatory fish wherever you're going. And I a lot of my growing up, we didn't have cool lures down here at all. I mean, it was like you had a few different lures from Rapala, and then anything that was outside of the box was, you were buying musky lures or something from the northern United States, Canada, Midwest stuff. I mean, big, weird stick bait lures that they were using to chase pike and muskie. And then you were ripping the hooks off of those and the split rings and throwing them in the trash, and then going and putting some, like, actual heavy stuff on, and then using it for the fish around here. And it was crazy how, like, I was buying lures that were made in Poland that they use for pike and stuff over there. And those were such an amazing lure for snapper and grouper around the rocks here. I mean, it was just on fire back in the day. And I'd ordered these things from, like, overseas as a kid, and it was wild. So it's, yeah, don't get stuck on, like, just what works, what everyone tells you works in your area. Take something that you like, and then try and adapt it. Go change it up. You might find something new, something that works, and make a video about it, and it might be onto something.
Makes sense. Are there any fellow surf anglers, mentors, authors, or individuals who have inspired your journey and deserve a shout out?
Hmm. Um. There's there's a bunch of
Set you up.
different guys around the world. Yeah,
Sorry.
I'd say I've met a lot of guys at ICAST. If you guys have never been to a tackle trade show like ICAST, or some of the some of the big ones in your area, that's a super fun way to network and meet people and meet cool people. And I go to ICAST every year just to do that, just to go talk with people, and you end up running into some interesting people from around the world. My trip to Australia, I ended up doing because I met a guy named Dennis Verrett, who had caught big yellowfin tuna off the rocks out of Ascension Island back when they let you travel to that island out there. He fished that back when it was still legal to travel out there, and caught some really big fish, and that kind of sparked our land-based search, and we went to Australia and spent a month camping out there and fishing, and that was a fun one. The guy Crazy Alberto, if you ever look him up online, he's an East Coast fisherman. He fishes big striped bass, big snook, and he's got some really interesting methods of fishing. He's been doing it a long time, and he's got some things that he talks about where fishing the non-human hours, which is kind of a cool thing. Which
Interesting.
Yeah, saying that the biggest fish come out in the non-human hours. In the the middle of the night, those like 2-3 in the morning, and he's got the fish to back it up too. So that's a really cool theory, and it works really well in his area, obviously. And so his name is Alberto Kine, I think is his name, but crazy Alberto is, and he's the one who, if you ever heard of the Alberto knot, which is like an improved Albright knot, the Alberto knot, he came up with that. That's named after him.
Of course. Nice. Now, see, learning just occurred for me. I didn't realize where it came from. That's really cool.
Yeah. So, he's a very, very cool guy. He works very closely with St. Croix rods. So whenever you go to ICAST or something, he'll be hanging around that booth.
I wonder if I met him last year. I unfortunately didn't get to go this year. I was busy getting something done, and I unfortunately, I've been waiting a while for that one. So I missed ICAST this year. I went last year and loved it. Absolutely had a great time. I went with the Fish Bites team, and it was a lot of fun. And you're right, man. It's a hell of a networking, and you can learn so much. And it was also the sign where I realized how tiny surf fishing is in the fishing world. I used to think we got so much water, man. We are the water. And then you realize, oh crap, Bass owns this game. We don't own this game.
No, trust me, all the funding that I try and go for any kind of media creation or fun trips or anything, it's like I always get met with, we spent all of our budget on bass fishing.
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, come on, I'm gonna catch this world record in something off the rocks, and you can't give me, nope, we already spent, $70,000 on what's his face, who's the champion bass fisherman. It's like, gosh dang it, you couldn't even give me a couple for, and it's just, the bass game is king, because they make 80-90% of their earnings off of bass. So it makes sense. It's not it's not really a question or competition.
No.
I'll let them have it, but I'm still gonna fight for my little piece of budget at the end of the day to go.
Hell yeah! Why wouldn't you? Absolutely would.
Yeah.
All right, so we're coming down to the last 4 questions here, and we'll get you out of here. What's a message you'd like listeners that listen to this episode to take away from the conversation about surf fishing today?
Surf fishing is definitely one of those ones. It's a hard way to catch fish. It's not the easiest way to catch fish in the world. If you want the easiest way, go out on a boat and go do that. So, on the flip side, really enjoy what you're doing. Just enjoy the process of it. Enjoy the learning. Get out there and enjoy the morning. I don't know. I always get out there on the beach, and it's like, God made that sunrise for me that morning, and those fish that are coming up, God painted that morning for me. So get out there and appreciate that part of it. And I don't know, if you catch a fish at the end of the day and it happens to be a good one, then man, that's a bonus.
Very nice bonus. Very good. All right. Where can listeners find more about your content, learn from your experiences, and stay updated on your surf fishing adventures?
Mostly, I would say I'm probably most active on Instagram, Cabo Surfcaster on Instagram. I'll do stories, and we'll be posting reels on there. I'm trying to shift a little bit more into some of the other platforms to try and grow that a little bit more. Facebook is another decent one. Don't get back to people quite as quickly on there. But yeah, and we're going to start trying to post more on YouTube. We got a few fun things coming up this year that we want to be doing, and hopefully posting on there. But yeah, I mean, I'd say you want to see the most recent stuff going on. It's probably going to go up on Instagram.
Very cool. I will make sure I'm looking more at Instagram because me and Instagram, we're not friends right now. We're having some anger.
Yeah, I can imagine that. Yeah.
All right, final question, and this has been great, man. But what's next for you?
Next, that's an exciting one here. Here's what's in the works. I'm trying to plan a trip down to Colombia.
Ooh, nice.
Yeah, so there's some areas in Colombia on the Pacific side that I would like to get out to and fish and try and chase those bucket list fish we talked about earlier in the episode. That I think it can happen, and talking to some of the locals down there, kind of like I was telling you should do when you go to fish a new area. Talk to people, ask them questions, figure out what they catch, and they're always going to be doing it in the traditional way. Sometimes what everyone else is doing, and that's obviously, if you've seen any of what I do, that's kind of not how I do it. So going down there and doing it a different way, and catching those fish, and talking to him, he goes, well, shoot, I've been following you for a while, and like, you could definitely tick those fish off your list if you come down here. Like, I have spots where it's wild. It's just nobody fishes it. We'll fish it in the boat sometimes, and close enough that you could easily cast from shore. And I've been following your stuff. I'd love to get you out there and try and see if you can catch them, because none of us have ever even gotten off on the rocks. And and I'm like, well, shoot, you put me there, and I'll do it.
Challenge accepted.
And yeah, so that's a trip right now that we're planning, hopefully end of next month. And yeah, we're working on getting some funding. I think there's the possibility of saltwater sportsmen being involved in it as well.
Very nice.
That'll be fun. So you might see something about it there, if they can get the sponsors all lined up for that. I'm working on trying to get my sponsors lined up and trying to snake some money away from the bass guys, but yeah, regardless, that's a kind of a bucket list trip and fish for me. So I think I'm gonna make it happen regardless. We're gonna try and do it, and we're gonna go and film it and film some cool stuff, and maybe hopefully you'll see one or two of those bucket list fish crossed off the list and posted up there with a fun video. So
dude, that'd be awesome. I'm so excited for you.
That's what's next, I think. Yeah.
Oh, well, you have done such an amazing job in this episode, just like you do in all your stuff. I mean, this was wonderful. You gave so much great knowledge. A lot of people are going to just be able to do so many great things with fishing. And hopefully, I mean, if I'm in Cabo, I will call you well before I leave to come to Cabo, but I will happily try to come out and book and fish with you, and we'd love to go do that. And I know that this episode's going to help a ton of people. So thank you so much for coming on and giving us the time today. I really appreciate it, Wes.
No, it was a blast. Thanks. That's what we do it for, is to share it with other people. And it's cool to get the word out there, the info. And if you like I said, if you want to follow along with some of that stuff that we're doing, that's probably online's the best way to do it. And I really appreciate all the people who are following along and commenting on stuff, and it's encouraging. I do it for other people like that. So yeah, awesome. Thanks for having me.
No problem. All right, we will talk to you again soon. You take care.
Right on. You too.
All right, ladies and gentlemen. Yeah, I got a ton of knowledge. I got a whole page and a half of notes. It's pretty insane. But hopefully you guys picked up some stuff. Make sure you're going back and taking a look at Wes's stuff. It's Cabo Surfcaster. You can find them on the social media platforms. Great info to follow. Lots of good stuff. And like you just heard, some really cool stuff coming in the future. Thanks for hanging out here at Finding Demo Surf Fishing. Always good to see you. Always thankful that you're here. Share it out. Hell, all we do is learn from each other, right? It's the only way we can make each other better. Learn and continue. Been good. I'll see you. I'm out of here.